billion realities. Next on the show today, we have a remarkable person, Hollywood producer, creative visionary, and businessman all in one, Uri Singer. Welcome to the show, Uri.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for taking the time to be with us today. I cannot wait to get inside your brain. We want to know your secret. How do you do it all? So you have a new movie out called Tesla starring Ethan Hawke, and I saw recently that you solidified a new deal.
Yes. So we just finished shooting last year Tesla, which is about Nikola Tesla, and Ethan Hawke is playing Nikola Tesla. It's an amazing story of a brilliant person, way ahead of his times. And we just sold it to IFC, which is an amazing company for this movie.
Absolutely. So you're out in Los Angeles, correct?
Yes, I am.
How long have you been there?
I've been here for 20 years.
Oh, a long time. Okay. So before we get into that, where are you from originally?
Originally, I'm from Israel. Then I lived in Brazil, and then I got here to the U.S.
Wonderful. So what is the average day like for you?
The average day, there's no average day, but in general, the day starts at the night when I come up with ideas of what to do and like the to-do things. And then it's morning with the kids, breakfast, and answering some emails, normally a lunch here in town, and then sitting and relaxing and enjoying the family.
Wonderful. So tell us a little bit about all of the different things you're interested in and the things that you do, because I know that you come up with creative ideas, you're an inventor of sorts, you're obviously a producer in the film industry, you're a business person. So how does all that tie in?
So I can tell you, I'll start from the end. We just have, as a film producer, you're looking always for content and original content. And a few years ago, I had a movie called Marjorie Prime with John Hamm and Gina Davis and Tim Robbins and Lois Smith. And we, while we were shooting this movie, I was thinking, what's next? And I read this book called The King of Oil, and I thought that was great. And it's a great story, so I optioned the book, and I went to some of the heads of the studios that I know here in Hollywood. And I brought them the book, and I said, this is an amazing book. It's about Mark Rich. It's a story from rags to riches, and then it has all the ingredients. He was indicted by Giuliani and Comey, which are names now in the news, and he had to flee to Switzerland. And President Clinton pardoned him in the last moment of his life and of his presidency. Sorry. And when I brought them the book, they said, "Is it a bestseller?" And I said, "No." So they said, "We're not interested." And that's two major studios. And I said, "Okay." But being me, no, I don't accept no for an answer. I kept on pushing, and I got the script written, and I got Matt Damon on board. And when Matt Damon and John Krasinski are on board, then we found a home for that in Universal. And then the two other studios called and said, "We're very interested in the Matt Damon project." Well, you had it from inception. And with that, I found that there is an opportunity for original content and great stories that are not bestsellers. How do you take all these great stories and books that are around the world and they are not bestsellers and present them to the decision makers and the producers and studios. And I came up with this idea of a platform called Tailflick, and I was joined by I found a partner called George Berry that worked many years in Apple and then at Netflix, and we opened Tailflick, which is exactly the difference between the old Hollywood, which is only bestsellers and only if you know somebody and the very inner circles, to giving a kind of exposure to any good story. So if you have a book or a script anywhere around the world, you upload it to Tailflick, we will take a look, and through our curation process, we will find it. And even today, it came out a deadline. We are going to produce some of the stories. So it's very exciting. It's a new, innovative platform that didn't exist before. So before, I would never think about it. If you produce movies, you just go with the flow. You go through the regular process. You get pitched by the agencies and literary agent and what have you, and you don't get all the range of all this vast, amazing talent stories and that are out there. So I was very lucky, and this is how I operate. I find the opportunity and create new products.
That's amazing, and that takes such a clever mind to say, okay, well, this is what's actually missing. So, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and create it, and that's what you do. So I think that's brilliant. And I love that platform, by the way. I've been sharing it on my social media because I think it's just so amazing. Like you said, there's so much, material content out there that can be incredible. It just there needs to be a platform for it to be discovered, and now you've created it. So that's excellent. What drew you towards the film industry in the first place?
So I lived in Brazil for a while, and on one of my flights to Los Angeles, I met this actress, very famous actress in Brazil called Juliana Pais. She was in all the soap operas, and she's very famous in Brazil. And think of her of kind of the, let's say, the Angelina Jolie of Brazil. And
wow.
We were in the plane on the door here in Los Angeles, and I said to her husband to be, hey, if you need anything here in Los Angeles, just let me know. And they looked at me and they said, how do you speak very well Portuguese? Because I'm married to a lovely Brazilian, beautiful Rosalie. And I said, yes, I speak and I said to Juliana, yeah, you speak good Portuguese as well. And she laughed. She said, of course, I'm Brazilian. And they did call. We became good friends. And then I told her, do you use your fame? Do you have a clothing line, perfume line? Do you do licensing? And she said, no, in Brazil it doesn't exist. We don't do that. We just do advertising. And I said, well, if I make it, would you be interested? And she said, sure. So I took a designer. I created a clothing line for her, and I launched it here in the States. And people told me, but nobody will know her in the U.S. And I said, it's not for the U.S. It's for the Brazilian chain, big department stores to know that she has a clothing line in the U.S. They will want to sell it exclusively in Brazil. And, of course, that's what happened. A big chain, kind of a Target, called me, and they were interested to carry her line. And we made a deal that was very, very profitable for her and for me. And I became friends with the owner of the store. Think about Target, but a privately owned store. So he was very generous, and he was very bold in his way. He wanted to sell the store eventually, and he thought that he will upgrade it with having a celebrity, an actress clothing line in his store. The first one, by the way, in Brazil. And I told him, Robson, what do you do for commercials? And he said, oh, we just have 3 commercials with the price, and we just have price and terms, like 3 payments, $7.99, because we don't have money to advertise. Our clientele is very popular. And I said, what if I do your commercials, but with A-list stars? And he said, well, that would be amazing. And I said, well, what if I do a feature film in the store with the commercials in the same time, and you just pay me the price of the 3 commercials? And he said, where do I sign? I said, don't sign, just pay me. And he did. And I produced my first movie called Bed and Breakfast. And we did the best commercials for the store because Juliana was the actress, and she had her first lead in an American movie in English. We had Eric Roberts, which is a great actor, but not very sellable in the U.S., but in Brazil, he was the brother of Julia Roberts. And,
right.
And we had the theatrical release, and everybody was happy, and it was the best commercials. And that's how I got into the film industry.
You are one incredible human being. I'll just say that. So, what are some of the challenges that you face in this industry? I know that you and I had discussed previously on a phone call the challenge of funding. So how do you cope in the face of challenges such as trying to get funding for a film?
So I think the challenges in the entertainment industry is the entertainment industry. I mean, it is such a very small. To make a movie, there's so many things that have to happen right before it actually. I mean, people, some producer friends of mine, even if you have a script, if you have funding, if you go to set, you just celebrate in the wrap party. That's the only time that you know that it's done. Because so many things can happen, and they do. But to your question, to get funding is Hollywood is very glamour. So a lot of glamour that people that have a lot of money can't buy their way in. So they're interested to invest. And if you bring a great project to an investor, then they might, if you find them and they didn't get burned, because not many movies do make money, then you can make a movie. I was very lucky with Marjorie Prime, the film I did before Tesla. I went to this billionaire that I know, and I told them, I want you to invest in this movie. It's an art movie. It's an adaptation of a play, of a Pulitzer nominated writer. It's about an 84-year-old woman married to a 44-year-old guy. I cannot guarantee it will be a success, but I can guarantee you'll be very proud to put your name on it, and I can get A-list actors, and I can get it to a great festival because I know the director. I know it will be a quality project. He heard me out, and he said, okay, I'll give you an answer in 2 days. And 2 days later, I was very happy. I called my wife and I said, yes, and we're going to make the movie. It's wonderful. And 2 days later, I get a call from him, and he said that he made all his billions without investing in the entertainment industry, and he's reluctant to start now. And I said, I did not come to you for making money. You know how to make money. I came for you to make this movie because it's an important movie and you'll be proud to have your name on it. And he said, what are you saying? I said, I'm not accepting your no. I think you should. I came to you, I pitched, and I know I can deliver. So he said, you're telling me you're not accepting my no? I said, yes. He said, okay, I'll make the movie. I'll invest the money.
Wow.
But I have one condition, he said. And the condition was that I will teach his grandchild to become a producer. So that's how you get funding for movies.
It seems like such a simple message, but it takes a lot of courage to tell somebody, you know what, I don't accept your no. And by the way, I tried to use that with somebody the other day. I must not
Yeah.
have your natural flair for it because it didn't work. But you must be doing something differently. I actually was inviting somebody onto the show, and he said, I don't really like doing live shows and whatnot. And I said, you know what? I don't accept your no. And anyway, long story short, he actually did recommend me to his partner, who I'm a big fan of as well. So she'll be on the show. So I did get somewhere with your tactic, but I think that's incredible. So,
And you have to be persistent. I mean, I can tell you to be persistent, even if you get a no. I can tell you from the quarantine, there is we in Los Angeles, like probably many other places, we're 5 weeks already in the house, and you order from Amazon fresh. But when you order, there's always no availability for delivery. So you have to be persistent and to click. So being me, it's funny, I was so persistent. So the first time we got the order, we got 82 bananas and 200 tomatoes because I clicked on the wrong, instead of clicking for the time, I clicked on the additional, so we had a lot of bananas. But I did get a slot. So the message is be persistent, don't take no for an answer. And it did quite good for me, I must say.
Excellent, excellent. So tell us, you have so many great stories, and I really want to hear more, and I'm sure the audience wants to hear more. What are some of the other stories you have about being persistent and how effective that was?
So there's many small ones, there are big ones. I can tell you one that has to do, in the beginning you said an inventor. So many years ago in Brazil, there was a company called Brahma. Brahma was a small local Brazilian beer company that 3 smart people took over it and made it. Today, they're the biggest beverage company in the world. They own Budweiser, they own Pepsi, they own Burger King, they Heinz. I mean, they did very well worldwide. And one of the presidents there told me, hey, do you know the Kinder egg? You know, the egg that you have a surprise and the chocolate, and it sells very well and kids like it. We want to do it for a soft drink. Can you come up with an idea for a solution that it would be a Kinder egg for soft drinks? And I said, sure, I can. And I said, I need to have a first-class ticket around the world because I need to think, and I need to meet some people, and I'll come back with a product. He said, okay. And I did. And I flew to Chicago to a friend of mine that had a toy company, and then I flew to Hong Kong. It was amazing. It's like, I don't know how to explain, but when you believe and you know that it's going to happen, there are some times that it does. And I found this amazing concept that was called cap container, and I patented it, and they bought 80 million pieces in Brazil, and it was the best promotion. And it is, and it's not easy. I can tell you the obstacle of every single story that has a happy success ending, it goes through so many ways. Because, for example, the marketing people, they ordered the 80 million pieces, and we produced them day and night. But then the industry people did not want to have a plastic container, if you may, on top of their bottles during production. And why? Because they will lose their bonus. Today they're manufacturing very well. It's manufacturing a soft drink factory, and then they have to stop it and install another machine. It will just harm their private interest, which is their bonuses. So they said no. So suddenly you have an internal problem. And for me, it was the biggest promotion that I knew would be a success. I couldn't fix it. So, people sometimes give up on this, but I said no. I said, well, let's do it manually. So what do you mean manually? 80 million pieces? I said, yeah, let's take another big yard near the factory and put people, and they'll just do it manually, and we'll shrink wrap it. So we changed the mold in order for it to pop easier on the bottle, and we did it manually. So these are things that are very nice a few years later. I was very stressed at the time, but they all work out when you know that it will work out. So if you don't think of failure and you believe that things will happen, they have the tendency to happen. Not always the way you want, but in the right direction.
I love that. So basically you're saying, okay, we can't do it this way, but it doesn't mean that it's a failure. Let's find a way to do it. So no matter what, I think it's your belief in the venture that you're taking on, it sounds like, but also the creativity to find a solution. And I feel like so many people will just accept that no and be like, oh, well, I don't know what to do about this, so I guess it's not going to happen, or somebody told me no, and then they get into that negative mindset. But you, on the other hand, are going to say to yourself, nope, let's figure out the solution and make a new plan. So I think that's a really big message.
I think it's true, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Would you say that you were always a person like that, with that mentality, with that attitude, with that mindset, or is that something that you gained with experience?
I was always like that. My father was a professor of aeronautics and then the president of a university in Haifa, and very distinguished, and my brother and sister were very smart and all A students, and I had to, for some reason, prove that I am good as well, but not in the same direction. And I remember something foolish that I told my father, he said, you can study for free because I'm a faculty member, so you don't have to pay higher education. That's a big advantage. I said, I will buy the university first. I mean, that was such a stupid sentence, but it's and so not my family, but it was me. And at the time, everything I wanted, every goal I wanted, I knew I could get. I mean, when I was in the Air Force, there was the most beautiful girl in the base, and all the pilots, which are handsome and tall and successful, they all wanted her. And I wanted her, and I got her. And I told her, let's go have soup in Jerusalem. Now, understand, in 1978, having a car was, first of all, a big advantage. And traveling from one city to 2.5 hours just to have soup, that was crazy. I mean, it's still crazy today somewhere. But that turned her on. She said, I opened so many lights and so many signs that were really different from anything she heard. Later on, she said that all of these signs don't have the lights anymore, and that's when it ended. But at that time, at least I knew the presentation was good. So it's just, you have to go after what you want. I always went. I am blessed, I think. I have a wonderful wife of 29 years marriage, and she is this relationship and 3 wonderful boys, this family that one builds is when it's healthy and everything, and you do it with love, and that's a priority. I think that this is priceless. So even like today in the corona, and that gives me the basis and the power to do things. She didn't want, if you remember, I didn't want to do the show. I didn't know what I would say in the show. And I went down and I talked to her, and she said, oh, just say what you're doing. So she's the power, not behind me. She's a bigger power than me.
Oh, that's so beautiful, So guys, just to clarify, so the woman that, he wanted ended up being his wife. So what about that situation made her be impressed? What impressed her about you asking her to travel 2 hours to go get some soup? Did she describe that to you later?
No, that's like 14 years before my wife. That was the first girlfriend I had. But that person at the time, she was, everybody had the traditional, normal way of doing things. So the pilots, each one wanted to show, I don't know, whatever, how smart they are.
Down the street. Okay.
Exactly. And I was different. And I knew that I had to come with something different. I mean, she was a soldier in the base, and I said, hey, do you want to have soup in Jerusalem? And she said, you just asked me to have soup with you in Jerusalem? When? I said, now. And she said, sure. and during those 2.5 hours ride, I was creative. And that, for that specific situation, I got what I wanted. And that happens in business, that happens in life. I mean, when I saw my wife, Rosalie, 29 years ago, I knew I wanted her. It was not, and she was not the same in the beginning with me. It took me time to court her. But again, this is what I wanted, and I knew, yes, you have to be persistent in that as well.
That's why I got the stories confused, because I think I heard them both, right? And I combined them.
Yes.
But so you made up your mind in that scenario as well, and you didn't take no for an answer.
Yes, many no's. But it's the end is what's important. Because if you look at the bigger picture, I'm the luckiest guy.
Wow. So what's the driving force behind this mentality outside of, you felt like you had something to prove to your family? Is it something that has been like a trial and error, and you saw that every time that you were persistent or didn't take no for an answer, that it worked, combined with your ultimate belief that this will be the end result is what you want?
I think it's not only going after it is every day I know what I want. So if I want to see a TV series, now everybody is binging and watching the whole, but when in a regular day, if a TV series comes out and I want to watch it, I'll stay 10, 20 hours and watch it. That's what I will do. And I'm capable. And having that freedom to do what I want and never work for somebody, but work for myself, that's something that was very important to me. Maybe not because I wouldn't be able to work for somebody, because I would always feel that I can do better. And when I hire people that can do better things than me. And so it's a drive that I can't say where it came from, but I can say that it's with me on every single stage. Like even now with the coronavirus, I'm thinking, okay, everybody's at home. After that, everybody will be cautious. What can I do to do something good and still take advantage of the opportunities that will be there? So that's the way I think. And I actually came up with something that I can't tell you, but I just registered a patent this morning. And yes, and it's going to be, I hope it's going to be, I don't think it's going to be, it's going to be useful for everybody, and it's going to help many people. So that's why I'm very excited about this.
That is so wonderful. So how much of your life is dedicated to inventing? Because it sounds like that's such a huge part of who you are. You're such a creator. So how much of your life is dedicated to that?
I think inventing is in every day. I'll explain. When I met Ethan Hawke in New York, the first day before we started to shoot Tesla, when we were in pre-production, I met him, and my wife came to visit me in New York on set, and we sat and we talked. And Ethan, I said, what else are you thinking about? And he started to say that he has this dream to make a movie, an adaptation of Tennessee Williams' play called Camino Real, and that he sees it like that. And I said, well, let's do it. And he said, what do you mean? I said, it's a done deal. Let's do it. He said, you're serious? I said, yes. We shook hands, and now we're going to shoot it. Yeah. So this is something that you would say, Ethan Hawke, he is one of the biggest talents there are. He knows other producers. He produced so many movies before me. This is his baby. Why does he need me? Because he knows I will get things done. Because when I met him 2 years before and I said, let's do Tesla, he hugged me and he said, let's do it. And here we are doing Tesla. So he knows that I can deliver. And
Wow.
when people see that and feel the energy, they and I think also it's not only the opportunity, it's how you treat people. When you listen to them, when you listen to what they want and what they care, that is something that it's a knife of two swords. I mean, you normally it works
sword.
well, double-edged sword. Yeah, normally it is so good because you become friends with the people you work with, and they trust you and they know that you know what they want. And sometimes you get hurt because you open too much and they're not your friends. They're just there for business. But most of the time, I had so much success. People I worked 30 and 40 years ago are still my friends, real friends, like with the kids and everything. I mean, this is even the girl with the signs with the soup. She just texted me recently and said her daughter's an actress, and I will open the doors for her. So I keep in contact with people for many years. I think this is a blessing. I have so many friends around the world. Everywhere I go, I know people. And I think if you do that and you listen to people, then they will be genuine with you if you're genuine. So
I was going to bring that up because just, our initial conversation, I could just sense that, you're a good-hearted person. And it must be difficult being a good-hearted person in that industry because it is a dog-eat-dog world in the entertainment industry. But you seem to be able to maintain that about yourself. You have a good soul, good heart. And I had a feeling that was connected to your success. I think that people can feel that, just like you described. They can sense it, they can feel it, because energy, it just doesn't lie. You just know. So I think that's huge. What are some of the challenges that you have faced? If you're willing to talk about, any particular, you don't have to tell a specific story if you don't want, but some where you think that you're connected to somebody and that they're friends, and then, you find out that it was all business. How hard is that?
That's very hard. That is hard. I take it to heart. I can tell you stories because they sit very strong with me. And when I tell this to my wife, she said that it's my fault that I opened my heart. Every person that worked with me, and they sometimes feel that they are entitled, is because I treat them like my kids, and I treat them very nice, and I'm very open. So when they leave or move on and I help them, they, like all the millennials, they come there with some things that I'm shocked. But in this industry, I had two cases which were, for me, they were shocking, but they serve as a lesson, but it does not deter me. One was in one of the Sundances. I had 3 movies in Sundance, and the first movie, The Experimenter, there was a party, after party, and a person came, introduced me to this person that worked in a bank, and the bank loans money to finances movies. And I thought, oh, okay, that's interesting. And we became friends, and we became so friendly that every market she invited me to parties of the bank, introduced me to people, and I invited her to my house. She came with her husband and her kids to dinner with my kids. I mean, I was really, really felt this is a real friend. And I opened myself, sometimes in business you don't have to give all the information, but I did. I opened, and she opened about her life. And it was a very, very nice relationship. And one day, after 2 years, there was a movie that I started to work, which I get a message that she expects to get an EP credit and $150,000 fee, something like that. The details don't matter, but something that I saw in the beginning, I thought she was joking. Like, seriously, I thought it was a joke. And So I answered accordingly. I said, yeah, sure, like with a smiley. Why? And the answer was, because I spent 2 years investing in you, and I have to start making money on like return on my investment. And I said, excuse me? And that was a shock. That was a shock because I opened my house to her and her kids, and I opened my heart to her. And this was, I can tell you that one of the people that I know, when I told him that, he said, really? You're shocked? Didn't you see the fin? I said, what do you mean? Didn't you see the fin on her neck? I said, what do you mean? She said, she's a shark. Everybody's in a shark, but she's definitely a shark. And for me, it was a disappointment because I saw her as a person. So this industry, people look at interests, and if politics is manipulating and dealing willing, the entertainment industry is. People wrote books about it. I mean, this is everybody is playing a game. I was invited to one of the top producers of Hollywood, like one of the old school, to their mansion. And, here in Los Angeles, we have a lot of big houses, so houses don't impress me. But this one did. It was old Hollywood with everything you have to have in it. It had 3 kitchens, and we came to a screening, and it was amazing. And the people were so nice. And they invited me to do a screening of my movie Marjorie Prime, and I brought John Hamm with me, and we were there, and it was so nice. They did a dinner in my honor and on the honor of the movie, and we talked about it, and there were the who's and who's were there. I mean, actors, heads of studios, everybody, and it was really, really touching. And I generally liked, me and my wife, we liked the wife of the producer. She has an amazing sense of humor. She's kind of a person that's been there, done that in Hollywood. And we were very happy to have this connection, And then came Christmas. I got a whiskey bottle with my name printed on it. I was on the list of that. So I said, wow, okay, this is working. And then because of the person that introduced me to them, that didn't like that we're friends, suddenly it ended. But it ended that we're not on the list. I don't even get a bottle anymore. Which it's all okay, but it saddens me because I was not there as a player, or I didn't play a part of a producer. I was there because I liked them. I generally liked them. We liked the daughter. We sat and talked. I went to dinner with the daughter. They're such nice people, and that hurt me. But apparently, this is Hollywood. This is how Hollywood works. So if you know that this exists, just be strong enough not to get hurt. But it's worthwhile because, when it lasted, it was great. And, again, when you have a strong family, then nothing, this is nothing. This is not important.
That's a great perspective. But I can understand that, it hurts when there's so much inauthenticity and everything is interest-based. Not with everybody, of course, but just to experience that when your heart is in the right place and you're not looking for the interest of it, I can imagine that's difficult. Does it get any easier with time, or are you just better prepared going into the next scenario?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's always because it's in every, and I will use the word level, but it's not level, let's say circles. In every circle, the more you get to the inner circle and you're new to that circle, you are there because of a reason. You're not in if you don't have a good script or a great actor or something. They need you. That's why you're there. And when they don't, you're not there anymore. And it is so obvious. So if you know that, you want to be in the circle because that's where the smaller the circle and the higher you climb, the easier to make bigger projects happen. But I can tell you personally, I like it less. I'm making a big movie with a studio, and sometimes I feel that my voice is insignificant, and that's fine. I can't complain. This is as high as you can get in a hierarchy, but it's less fun. It's much better to make movies like Tesla and Marjorie Prime, because then you have an input. You create something from nothing, and when you say invention, I think why I like to make movies is you start from nothing, an idea, and then the script, and then you bring the cast, the director, the studio, the distributor, the sales. There is a premiere, and that's it. Then you go to the next one. And again, you hire people, it becomes like a small family. And so every time you have, and that is like an invention. And every invention, you create a product, and it starts from scratch, and then you build it. And this is, I think this is not for everyone, because people like sometimes to do the same thing for 30 or 40 years. But for me, I didn't do movies until 10 years ago, and now I'm a producer. Tomorrow I can stop being a producer and I can do something else, and it wouldn't bother me as long as I'm excited and I'm creating and I'm doing good. That's something that drives me.
That's great advice. I think that, your heart is in it and you're passionate about it. So you're willing to go through the ups and the downs and the challenges and the changes. What kind of advice would you give to a person in this industry who is struggling with it on that level?
I will leave the industry. but no.
That's the nature of the beast, right?
Exactly. Exactly. But you have to like it. You have to like the abuse. The abuse you do. You have to, because everybody always says, why am I doing this? Why am I doing it? And they keep on doing it because the glamour, not necessarily with the red carpet, but the glamour of going 4 times a year. You go to markets, and it's in Cannes and Berlin and Toronto, and everybody. So it's like everybody in the plane. You get on the plane, and everybody that's boarding, and then you go to the parties. You meet the same people, and it's a relationship that create some kind of I don't know. It's the glamour. I wouldn't call not the glamour of the red carpet of the actors, but it's glamorous. So there is a lot of highs. So people that are used to a lot of highs, sometimes they're used to a lot of lows. And if you are accepting that kind of a life, that you can have highs and lows, then this is an industry for you. But I think being innovative and creative and inventive is not only in business. I mean, when I'm 29 years married to this beautiful woman, and there's some times that I think, and it's a regular day, I think, what can I do to surprise her? Like 2 days ago, I went out because we can't order flowers or buy flowers, so I went and cut from the garden and brought her flowers. And for no reasons. I don't need a Valentine's Day. I don't need anything. It's just the gesture, being respectful, being innovative. One day I asked her where does she want to go. That was when I was a bit younger, and I said, anywhere in the world, where can you go today? If you could go anywhere, and she said, I'd love to go to the Venice Carnival. And I said, well, we're leaving at 10 p.m., and we have costumes ready there, and everything is set. So, these surprises and these untraditional things keep the flame in a relationship and in business. If you have a script and you send it to the traditional people and they didn't answer, and you send it to all the platform and nothing happened, don't give up. Don't give up. See somebody that you think that is good, and don't nag him, but find a way of what he wants. And when you find a way to what he wants, and try to make it happen. So there's always an opportunity, and you just have to find it. And if you are not lazy and you go after what you want, I believe that anybody can get anything they want. It's not just a saying. Obviously, I cannot be the president, not that I want to, but there's things that this saying doesn't apply. But if I in the beginning I thought I want to get an Oscar. That was very important to me. And then we went to a few Oscar parties, and I saw the people, and I stood and I spoke to some actors that just won, and if I do or I don't, it really doesn't matter. I have 3 Oscars in my house, which are my 3 boys, and this is so much. I mean, if I would have 3 real Oscars and I would be 24/7 on set and working like that, probably my kids would not be that healthy in their mind and body and successful. So I think one chooses where to devote his life, and I think if you have a base that is giving you the confidence and power to do whatever you want, which is the family, you can reach anything you want.
That is such an amazing message. So it's what I'm taking from that is your foundation is actually the most important thing. And your foundation is basically what you're giving and receiving as far as love, effort, and all of these things that you share that are authentic, that give you the power to be able to accomplish all of these things. Because what do you have if you don't have that type of foundation? So there's a lot of people who are alone in the world and they're just success driven, and that's all that matters, but they continue to hit a wall. And it's probably, and this is my opinion, that their values are possibly in the wrong place, because everything else is an extension of the love that you give and receive in essence. So that sounds like that's your power, your driving force. Your power is that sturdy, stable, loving foundation that you have. And I feel like that's probably what gets you through the disappointments of the people in that industry. I mean, imagine you were alone and having to deal with those, that type of disappointment in other human beings. You'd probably become very cynical.
Yes. I agree. And I think, listen, one can run after as much as money as you can have. And then what do you want? You want more. But we don't take it. When we die, we don't take it. People tried, since the Egyptians, to take the wealth with it. It's not working.
That's right.
So, we have to find the wealth within. So, first of all, I think if you're confident with oneself, and I'm very confident, not every day, but most of the days, I feel very confident that I sometimes, I say some things and my kid says, yeah, but that's your opinion. And I've been challenged, but I feel very confident that the way that I educate my kids and the way that I do things, it turns out great results. And when I see that, the disappointments, let's say you make a movie. I made Marjorie Prime from scratch. It was I got this billionaire to put the money. By the way, the grandchild became one of the biggest producers in Hollywood, so I did good on that.
Excellent.
And I was, I had a screening at his own private cinema, and he was sitting there, and he enjoyed it. And it's when this movie, I thought we had an actress called Lois Smith, and she was 84 when we shot the movie. And she started with James Dean, by the way, early on. And she is an impeccable human being, an incredible person, not only brilliant in her craft, but as a person, she's so nice. When we did a lot of press, she came to me and I said, I hate it. How do you like it? And she said, Uri, that's work. That's what we do. That's the part that we have to do. And I mean, I should have been the one telling her, and she was guiding me. But that person I thought deserved an Oscar. And the movie is a limited budget movie, an independent movie. So we had a very limited amount of money for an Oscar campaign. And in Hollywood, if you don't have money to make an Oscar campaign, you will never win an Oscar. So it's all about the money until it reaches level that the ones with money are getting considered. But in order to get to be nominated, you need to pay so many screening rooms and hire so many people to make the events and the parties, and every screening has to be better than the other. So it's millions of dollars. And if you don't have that, you don't deserve that. And the publicist for this movie, and we had 2 Oscar winners on the movie, Tim Robbins and Gina Davis, and we had John Hamm, who just won his Golden Globe.
Wonderful.
And the publicist told me, we should make the campaign only for Lois. And it was not fair to the other actors. And I told them that this is my decision. And most of them agreed and supported that. And it was not the right commercial decision, because obviously if we would go with the others that are more recognizable and younger, then it would be, we would probably get further in the process. But I thought the right thing, she deserves it. This actress, she did the play on Broadway, and then she did her movie. I mean, at the age of 84, working so hard every day, and she remembered all her lines, and I can't say that on all the other actors.
Incredible.
And I thought that was the right thing to do. And she did not win, but she appreciates that. And, I'm still in touch with her, and this is a beautiful person, talented person, that I did my best, and I feel very comfortable. I sleep very well doing that. So, it's not always the right business decision, but when it's the right decision, it will bring you more later on. That's how I see it.
Peace of mind is so important, and it's amazing that you're able to have that perspective while being heavily immersed in that world. So hands down to you, because that must not be easy. I can just imagine, and I think that, a lot of the people do become so cutthroat in that industry because they're trying to, like you said before, play the game, be on the same level as, the higher ups that they're trying to, be close to. But, you've maintained a level of integrity that gives you peace of mind, and you're still able to do what you love. So I just think that's really powerful. It's a very powerful message. What kind of... Sorry, go ahead.
No.
I forget what I was going to say, but I think that's incredible.
I can jump on the message on power, because I have a short story
excellent
that I can share with you. There is
perfect.
One of my investors and a very, very close friend, and he was born in the same date as I was, and we met it's a long story, but when we met, we knew that we hit it off, and he invested in the first movie, Bed and Breakfast, the first one I ever did. And during the years, we became very, very close friends. And he's one of the investors in Tailflake and the platform, so he really believes in everything I do, in me, actually. And then one day he said that money is not everything, and he made already enough money, and he has 2 beautiful daughters, and he's looking for more. He needed more meaning to his life. Why are we here? What's this journey? And he started to go and learn the work, which is a very amazing human being called Byron Katie. She gives seminars, she has a school, and she has a very simple method. She wrote 12 or more bestsellers. She's married to a wonderful poet, writer, and translator that they live in a very nice harmony together. And they are very loved, very simple, and they have a very amazing message. Byron Katie's message is you have to ask for questions. It's called The Work, and it's free online, and everybody can watch it. And I'm not the kind of a person that would normally talk about it or even read about it or listen to it. But because of Louise, because of my investor and friend, I read a little bit. He used to send me tapes. And he said he came to many seminars and to many workshops, and he brought all his family. He even brought his ex-wife to go there because he thought he would have a better relationship with his ex-wife. And he really is an admirer of her, and she changed his life. He brought all his partners, and these are people that are doing major business in the world for major CEOs of big companies. And one day I said, why, when you come here, let's try to meet her. He said, no, it's not that easy. She's not that accessible. I mean, she's not that accessible for meetings because she's not interested in business, et cetera, et cetera. So I contacted her, and I got a reply. And the reason I got a reply is because one of her favorite movies in the world is Marjorie Prime.
Wow.
And the movie with Lois Smith, the one I said that if you do good, good comes back. Not necessarily on this movie, but it is a journey. It brings other things. And she came to my house, and they flew from Brazil and another country of Canada. They flew direct here. One of the investors, a very nice, rich individual, told my wife that he would have cut his wrist if he would not be in this meeting. And my wife looked at him like with a smile. Yes, why? Like, it's just a woman. So she came in, and we sat in my backyard. And mind you, these people read all her books from cover to cover, listened to all her audiobooks. They listen. Louise is listening to, when there was a workshop, he's listening to her, when he works out. He listens to audiobooks from Byron Katie and her husband. So he knows everything. They know their life from inside. Everything that is available, they know. And they were sitting there as if their God came. I mean, she walked and they thought she was floating. It was amazing. And for me, it was another person coming to a meeting in the morning. It was very nice. We gave them pão de queijo, which is the Brazilian cheese puffs. And everybody liked it, and we talked about that. And during the conversation, I said, listen, these are my friends. They are great fans. They think that their life changed because of you. I have to admit, I'm not very familiar with everything. I know a little bit, but this is not my kind of calling. But I said that, and we talked, and then we talked about some things, and she said, the reason I'm here is because of you. And she pointed to me. And she said,
wow. Your
movies that you made, I saw Experimenter, I saw Marjorie Prime, and what you made with Marjorie Prime is way ahead of its time. This is exactly how life is. And I was like, okay, like it was very good for me because, it made me feel good. But I looked, and then during this conversation, there was a fly it was after the fires. It was last year, after the fires here in Los Angeles, and there were a lot of flies around. And when they sat on each one of us, you move it with your hand. You just try to push it. And when the fly sat on her face, she didn't move at all. And I told her, I said, listen, they all think that you are very special, and I know you are, obviously, but I said, I know you are. I saw you on Oprah with a smile, but but you are but everyone didn't touch the fly, and you ignored it. I mean, you are unique because this is something special. And her husband told me that when he met her in Barstow, which is a desert on the way to, it's a small town in the desert on the way to Las Vegas, between Los Angeles and Las Vegas, she took him for a walk before they got married in the desert, and they lie down on the ground looking at the stars, at the sky, and a fly landed on her face, and he moved it with his hand. And she said, "Why did you do that?" And he said, "Because you had a fly on your face." And she said, "And why did you do that?" And he said that part is in one of his books that he's going to publish now, that he was writing. And this is for me, it was a symbol of her and the way she was, and really she impressed me as a person. Besides her knowledge and the way she talks, it's really heartwarming and thought-provoking, meaning you think about her system, and I did try to implement it many times, and it did help me. So I definitely recommend the work to anyone. This is something that I do not master. I wish I would, but it's training the way you think and asking questions about some issues you have, and it's just you have to train yourself to do it well. But you see, that came because of Marjorie Prime, because of something I did before. It was kind of a calling. It happens. So in this life, you don't know. If you do good, good will come to you. And if you are inspiring and you help others, people will help you. Things will happen. So I think that, I always tell people when they're down, when they're good people, I tell them, good things happen to good people. And sometimes they don't want to hear that, but I do believe it. So at least it happens to the people I know.
It happened to you, and that's such an amazing story. And it's so funny because when I approached you about the show and I told you about my concept, you mentioned Byron Katie. And then you told me that story, and I was like, wow, that's so incredible that there was a link there. And that's something that in the spiritual world we call synchronicity. And it's a sign that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and that you're on the right track. They say it's like kind of like your angels are letting you know that you did the right thing. So that story right there sums up that concept so well, because you chose authenticity and integrity over, money or success merely, right? Like not just that. And look how it came back around. You had this amazing experience and you were able to give another gift to your friends, even though you were the one who gave the gift in the first place to the woman who was in Marjorie Prime. So
yeah, exactly.
It's all very connected. And I feel like that's, God, the universe, whatever you believe in, it's just a confirmation that, you did a good thing, and now here are more good things. So I think that's a really powerful message, and I love that. And it's also interesting that you weren't really familiar with her work, but through your friends and through something else good that you did, you got to learn something even more powerful, which was, like you said, you learned a lot from her. You tried to adopt some of her ways, and, like you said, it takes practice, of course, but it was still a consciousness expansion of sorts. So
yes.
That's an incredible message. So how do you choose your next venture, or is it just something that just naturally happens?
It naturally happens. It naturally happens. I can wake up in the middle of the night with an idea. I can talk to somebody and hear what they're doing and say, oh, here's an opportunity. And sometimes it works. Most of the time it doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't. And then I go back to sleep, or it happens again. So it just there's no planning. Like if you ask me, where will I be in 3 years from now? I don't know. What will I do? I have no clue. I can't plan where I travel in the summer with the kids because I don't know if I'll be in a movie set or if there will be a movie or not. But they can't complain. I find time and we do. So it's just a different way of life, but it comes without planning.
I like that. So you basically are inspired in a moment, and then you take it there. You're not seeking out, a next project or a next idea. You're just allowing it to come to you.
Correct. So, but I make it happen. So, for example, the way I met Luis, somebody told me that there's this guy in Brazil that is interested to invest in movies. So I called him and I said, listen, it was, I think, Wednesday. I said, can we meet on Friday? He said, why? Will you be in Brazil? I said, yeah, coincidentally, I'm flying tomorrow, but it will be great to meet in person. And he said, great. And I flew specially for that, obviously. He didn't know that. He knows that now, but he didn't know that then. But I knew that if I sit with him face to face, I had a feeling. I don't know if I knew. But when I went, I felt so confident that it's going to happen that, and it did. Now I remember early on, it wasn't like that. When I was 18 in Israel, I remember that I had a briefcase that I bought in Thailand, like the attaché case. Like we used to call it James Bond case, like the square, rectangular black attaché case. And there was a lawyer there and said, wow, that's a great case. Where did you get it? I said, in Thailand. He said, well, how much did it cost you? And I said something like $18. And he said, well, if you can get me 3,000 of these, I can sell them for $30 because of I said, really? He said, yes. So he shook my hand, and he was one of the most important lawyers in my city, Haifa. And I went down to a travel agent, and I wanted a ticket for the next day to Bangkok. And they said that for 4 days, it's full fare. That means it will be business class. It was, I think, $4,000. It was very expensive. I didn't have the money. But I knew that I would be able to deliver. So I went to the factory, and I negotiated the price, and I got it under $10, and I got a sample, and I flew back, and I brought it to him, and then the lawyer said, I changed my mind. I don't think we'll do it. I said, well, what about my flights and everything? He said, I didn't guarantee you. I said, but we shook hands. He said, well, you will learn. So those disappointments happened to me several times, but that just gives you more strength because, okay, he was a rotten person. That's okay. He was in jail afterwards for many years later, and he got bankrupt on a restaurant he had, and a lot of bad things happened. And I'm not saying that it's because of that. I'm just saying that he was not a nice character. I was 18-year-old.
A character. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it not always happens like that. I mean, there was I thought I won't have stories, but I have a fun story for you that I didn't tell you. So I went to Thailand. I used to fly a lot to Thailand, and I met there a Swiss guy that used to do some wood product. And then he produced one product that he showed me, and he said, but he can't do it. He's going to go to brass and do other things. But he said, you should do it. And I said, well, I don't have any knowledge on that. He said, well, people in the States, that's where the market. And it was a steering wheel for Mercedes, for Mercedes-Benz. And it was the only accessory that could sell for under the $100 at the time. So you had the cassette box and the gear knob, and it was, there was no airbags at the time. So you would take the steering wheel, the emblem out, you put the wood, and you will have a wooden steering wheel. It would look very nice. So I went to Israel, and I manufactured 2 dozens. So I went first to the U.S. I got a distributor that distribute all the other accessories from wood. She had the cassette box, and she had the gear knob. And I said, I'll manufacture that and you'll sell. And we shook hands, and it was great. I went back to Israel, manufactured it, just a sample, flew to Los Angeles, and there was a show in Las Vegas, a car accessories show, that we were supposed to show together. And the night before I came, a friend of mine took me out, and I saw this beautiful, gorgeous girl called Vaitiari. And I know now she was called Vaitiari. At the time, I just saw her in a bar, but there were many men around her. And I wanted to talk to her. And I felt so cocksure of myself. I was really, I'm not, my looks were not my strongest suit, let's put it this way. So I knew I don't have a chance that she would even look. So I came to her and I said, do you want to work for me? I have a trade show in Vegas. And she said, really? And all the guys that were sitting at her table were looking at me like, who are you? And I took out a stack of cash that I had in my pocket and said, I'm willing to pay you now in advance. So she got up, went to me, gave me her card, and said, call my agent. So the next morning I did, and he said that she's Julio Iglesias' girlfriend.
Oh, wow.
And I said, okay, well, if she wants to do. Anyway, I agreed with her with him on a price, with her. I flew with her to Las Vegas. We went to a hotel, a very small hotel. I took her to the room. I went back to my room. And the next morning, we go to the trade show. So we're walking. I'm walking with this gorgeous girl. We're walking. And then we arrive to the booth where we have the distributor. And she is... I see their steering wheels already. And I said, what's that? And she told me, this is business and this is life. You didn't register a patent, and I got some great loans in Birmingham, Alabama, and I manufactured myself.
Oh,
and at
wow.
that time, I was like, all my dream of becoming a millionaire at that time, selling an item that nobody has, evaporated. And I was so embarrassed. So I said, okay, I turned around. I shook her hand and I said, this is a great lesson for me. Thank you so much. I turned around and I told Vaitiari, listen, I'm going to pay you, but I'm not going to stay here. It's the end. There's nothing for me. And she said, no, I'm going to go back with you to Los Angeles. I said, okay. So I paid her. And on the plane, she asked me, where are you going to stay in Los Angeles? I said, I don't know. I don't know anything. She said, do you want, maybe I can take you to the hotel that Julio stays. I said, sure. So when we land, on the way to the hotel, she says, are you gay? And I said, no, why? And she said, because you're the only man that never tried anything. You brought me to the room, said goodnight, and left. You were such a gentleman. And I didn't think I had the chance, to tell you the truth, but it was like... Then she brings me to the hotel. I walk in and I say, hi, do you have a room? And they said, no, we only have suites here. And I said, okay, a suite. And all the rest of my money was to pay for that night because I didn't want to feel embarrassed that I couldn't take the room. And the next day, I went to the airport. And instead of going back to Israel, at that time you had like a ticket that's around the world. I looked in the atlas. There was no Google Maps. There was an atlas. I opened and I said, where don't I know anyone in the world? And I decided to go to Brazil. And I went to Brazil went to this 5-star hotel, and I knew I had like 11 days before they will ask me to pay and that I had to create a business. And sure enough, I made a business. I made the sunscreen for cars, the auto shades, and I stayed there as a resident for 2 years.
Wow.
So, I didn't make the car accessories, but I got to Brazil.
This is incredible. What a crazy life you've had.
Yeah.
And the things that happened to you that brought you actually to other scenarios, but it seems like you just make the best of it no matter what.
We live only once.
Yeah, but that must have been a crushing experience, but you still handled yourself and that woman in such a, you know, dignity. Dignity is the word that comes to mind, even though you were crushed. But wow. So you spent 2 years in Brazil. Is that where you met the friends that you ended up having over to your house with Byron Katie?
Yes, but I lived in Brazil for over 2 years. 2 years I was just a resident in that hotel, and I made a deal with the general manager. I became friends with him, and I made the auto sheet for them. And then there was no movies in English. So here is another example. I stay in this hotel. It's called Meridian, and there's only movies in Portuguese, nothing in English. And I don't speak Portuguese at the time. So I want to be able to watch movies. So I go to the general manager and I tell him, listen, why there's no movies? Why don't you have like a channel? He says, make a channel. I'll buy the movie. I'll buy the service from you. So I go to the business affair downstairs and I say, can you please get me somebody, a technician? And I made a company called VHS, Video Hotel Service. And I used to go, and
Wow.
I was the first one that had kind of a cable, if you want, in all the 5-star hotels in Brazil. So, and again, I would never think that that's what I would do. I was just there, and I knew that I could get. That's how I could get a free room. So many things lead to many things. So the opportunity always comes, and it's not something that I plan. I promise my wife that whatever we do, I will always make her laugh and we will always travel, but that I won't have a 9-to-5 job, and it's not always stressless. I mean, there are days that these things affect you when you get people like that banker that was in my house that does aggravate one, and you're very disappointed in people sometimes. But
Sure.
you keep.
I think we lost Uri. Hopefully he calls back. Give me 1 minute, guys.
Hello, sorry,
Yuri?
the line.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, the
I
line
lost you. That's okay. So you were saying that, it's obviously it does take a toll on the whole vibe, and it's disappointing. It affects everybody when you invite somebody like that into your home for 2 years. And
Yeah, but it's not always like that. Most of the time, it's good, and most of the time you have great stories, and the great stories come from great people and great people you associate yourself with. And I feel I'm blessed. I had great. These stories are my life, so it's it happens all the time, and I'm creating and helping. Now I'm helping authors with Tailflick. I'm doing good, and when you put your head and go to sleep, even if it's very late because you're watching a lot of movies, you sleep better when you do good.
absolutely. And I love what you said earlier about Julio Iglesias' wife. You shook her hand and you said, thank you for the lesson. And at the end of the day, anybody who burns you or hurts you or betrays you in any type of way, it is a lesson. It's for our personal growth. And you were able to recognize that very early on. And I think that's, really important. Did I lose you again?
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought I lost you again. But yeah, I love that you have that perspective. It's like, yeah, that hurt me. And, it's not the ideal situation, but you walk away with growth. You walk away with a lesson and a little bit of a thicker skin for the next time. I know you said that it doesn't always make it easier for the next, hurt or betrayal, but I think it does kind of thicken your skin a bit, just knowing that, once in a while you're going to experience that type of personality as well.
Yep,
All
I agree. And yeah.
I'm so happy that you were able to join us today, and thank you so much for being on. So tell everybody where they can find Tesla. By the way, I'm just going to say this. It's also really synchronistic that, you know, you have the movie Tesla. I live in Serbia, where Tesla is from. So I have a connection to that specific movie and topic regardless, but it's been so great to have you on. Tell everybody where they can find that movie.
I don't know, because it will be premiered either New York or Los Angeles on August 7th, if things will open. And then it will be, I'm sure it will be on Netflix, Amazon, everywhere. I don't know yet, but I know that after theatrical, it will be on the streaming services.
That's wonderful. And what are you working on now that people should look out for in the future?
So I'm making The King of Oil with Matt Damon, which is going to be a very big movie. And I'm making a movie with Ethan Hawke called El Camino. Camino Real. Camino is one I did. Camino Real, which is going to be amazing, because it's something that is very dear to Ethan, and he's so talented. So I'm excited about that one very much. And there's an adaptation of a small movie called The Cake Maker that I bought the rights, and now we're going into the final stages to make it. So that's going to be a beautiful movie. And I'm doing a TV series with A24 with the classic, I don't know if it's called White Noise by Don DeLillo. And Don DeLillo is one of the biggest and like an icon novelist here in the U.S. He was nominated for a Nobel Prize when Bob Dylan won, and he optioned that and believe it and bestowed the trust to make it happen because he still wants to see it. And I was very lucky to have A24 attached, and so that's going to be a TV series that we might be able to announce soon. Excellent.
And one more little bit of information about Tailflick.
So Tailflick is a platform. If you have a story, if you have a book or a script, go to tailflick.com and watch the videos and watch the success stories of others and upload your book. And we would be happy to find if it's a gem, and even if the book is not written well, but the story is there, we will find it. So we are connecting that not only to our production, but we're finding all the other studios and producers and actors that are looking for content, directors. They all come to Tailflick to find those gems.
Excellent. I really appreciate you being on the show today. I'm sure the audience took away so much insight, and I feel like, you know, the main message with you is stay grounded, stay loving, stay authentic, stay good, and, you know, don't take no for an answer. Guys, look at Uri. He doesn't take no for an answer. So be persistent, stay at it, and stay passionate. Thank you so much, Uri, for taking the time to be on the show today. I hope we'll have you on again soon.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Me too. Thank you. Take care,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us today on A Billion Realities. Please stay tuned for next Wednesday's show at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time or 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Take care, everyone.